Ambazonia, land of freedom, usually repents in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation. Ambazonia, land of freedom, usually repents in our need, and your children shall be like the stars above. The Most High God be the watchman of this nation.
Hello everyone, I'm Babli Jonathan. You're welcome to this edition of The Insight. In this edition of the program, we will be bringing to you a sharp-pointed and heart-witness account of what is happening in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. We'll also be taking a look at the role of the church in the life of a nation like Cameroon, especially during periods of crisis like what is going on today in the Republic of Cameroon. Meet our guest in a second. He has been on the ground. He has been in Anglophone Cameroon. He has been in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, and he has witnessed the new and deepening twist of the socio-political unrest hitting the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon for more than a year today. His Eminence Cardinal Tumi, Archbishop Emeritus of the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church, is our guest in this edition of the program. His Eminence, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, you just returned from the northwest and of course the southwest regions of Cameroon. What did you observe? What did you see?
Well, every year, since I became a bishop in 1980, I go to my village on holidays for at least 2 weeks. My village is Kikaikalaki in Kumbo. And it happens at this time, I spent more than 2 weeks in the village and observed and listened to people talking about the present political situation in the English-speaking part of our country. It happened incidentally because I didn't go there to observe what was happening. It was incidental that it coincided. The presence of the army coincided with my presence in that part of the country. And in Mbim, that's a village about 40 minutes drive from my village, which had been visited by the army the day before I went there. I was there on the 28th, and I think the army was there on the 27th. And I saw and listened to people in their depression, I would say. It was as if the whole village of Mbim was mourning for somebody who had died, but nobody had been killed there, to be frank with you. But I saw houses that were reduced to ruin, to dust and ashes. I saw the house of a man who had run away with his wife and 6 children. Their house had been reduced to dust and ashes. I saw the material of a building water project in Mbim. The pipes had been all broken. I saw chairs of a cooperative union which had all been broken down. I saw the house of an old man, ramshackled, and I was told that the army had made away with 2 generators of the family. I saw a man looking completely depressed, from whom the army had made away with 800,000 CFA francs. I saw a bar of a young man running a small business from where hundreds of bottles of beer had been taken away by the army. And what could not be taken away was broken to bits and pieces. I saw windows of houses broken. And I was struck by an old man, by the question an old man asked me. Cardinal, what wrong have we committed that the army should be sent to treat us this way, as if we were, foreigners who had come to ransack the village? I saw crops, corn, beans, coffee, reduced to dust and ashes, a year's harvest gone. And I asked the people, what did the army say you had committed as a fault? What was your fault?
And during your stay in the northwest region, His Cardinal, did you observe that gunshots and gun battles become nearly a daily issue?
To be frank with you, I observed none of those. I saw nothing. In this village, the people told me that the army said they were looking for guns, but they found no gun. This was simple, innocent people. And what was the reason for the presence of the army in Beam? I am told that a soldier had been gunned down by a young man in Yonkui. Yonkui is a village far away from Beam. So the people could not understand why the army came to attack them in Beam. So my conclusion is, I ask myself, brother, if they find a criminal in a village, does everybody in the village become a criminal? That's the question I ask myself.
No, you were equally in the southwest region of the country.
When I was coming back, I spent a night in Mamfe, and I saw the Bishop of Mamfe and Ronkea, who had visited some villages that were reduced to dust and ashes, and an old woman who could not save herself was burnt alive in a village. The people would like to go back, but to where? To where? They have no houses. The bishop said, when they met the bishop, the Dieu Island met the traditional rulers who also met the bishop. And the bishop said he was ready to look for buses to carry the people back to the village, but to where in the village? You cannot go and leave them in the open air. He couldn't leave them in the open air. So the bishop said he could not commit himself to that type of operation. So I think that the army is making many enemies.
Right, I was going to ask you, His Eminence, from your observation, who is doing what on the ground between the secessionists who have been referred to as terrorists today, elements of the National Armed Forces, and the masses?
What I saw now, the destruction was done by the army. by the military. For example, there were no secessionists there. No. It is the army that's doing the havoc. We condemn deaths, whether of a military man or of a... That should be condemned. But if the army goes into a village, what is the purpose of its presence there? Is it just to ransack everyone? To kill whoever they saw? I'm just asking. If a military life, every life is sacred. That of the life of a civilian is sacred. The life of a military is sacred. But I do not think that it is the mission of the army to do away with the property of the civilians. I don't think so. Army that's doing away with the property of the civilians.
The army that is supposed to be protecting the people and their properties.
Well, if they are looking for a criminal, let them look for the criminal with all patience. They should not draw the conclusion that since the criminal was from this village, everybody in the village is a criminal. It's not a logical conclusion. I don't think so.
And from what you're saying, from all indications, many are paying the price for a crime they have never committed.
Exact. That is why this old man asked me the question, what have we done that the government should send a whole army to come and destroy our village? You know, to see it. The village is now empty. People are away from the village. They don't know. But like this man with his wife and 6 children, nobody knows where they are. I visited the house, burnt it down. Not that I go by hearsay. What I go by hearsay is what the Bishop of Manfred told me. I spent some time, a whole day with him, and he showed me the pictures, with the, he's easy now to make pictures with the telephone and all that. He has all that, ready to make a report.
Showed you pictures of villages like Kwakwa and the others?
Kwakwa, yes, I heard about that name, but I don't know the place, but I hear also that atrocities were committed there, as in Tadu. And as I said, the killing of a military man did not take place in Tadu, as some say, nor did it take place in Bim. It took place in Yunkui, and Yunkui is kilometers away from these two places.
And the response of the military came upon people far away from the place where...
Kilometers away. Not that I hear say I went there. Yunkun is far away from Bim. It's far away from Tadu. I passed through those villages.
Maybe they got information that those who committed the atrocity or those who killed the element of the National Armed Forces had escaped to the neighboring villages that came under the repression of the Defense and Security Forces.
Accepted that they escaped. Let them look for them. I am not supporting crime, no. Let them look for the criminal and let the criminals be punished according to our laws. They could run to anywhere. Let the army have the patience not to decide to ransack people's homes and do away with the property. Where do they take the property to?
Now, what is the state of the villages that you visited in the northwest region today?
No, I only in Kumbu area there, the villages I visited. those who were attacked by the army, well, the people are miserable. Miserable, like I say, all that was harvested is reduced. Petrol was thrown on them and set on fire. Yeah. Not that I heard, I saw. And by the way, before I arrived, there are some sisters also who on charitable activity were already there to see how they could help the people.
And many inhabitants of those villages have fled to unknown places.
To unknown areas. To unknown areas. For example, in Mafi, the bishop told me the dear and the traditional rulers had tried to bring the people back to the villages. And that the district officer had advised the traditional chiefs to see the bishop, because he has a good knowledge of what is happening and where the people are. And the bishop told me, no, he was ready even to get, buses to bring the people back to this particular village in his diocese. I've forgotten the name. And that, but his question was, where would he bring them to? There is not a single house standing up. Where would he? I think the government should have a project if they want the people to come back, and they're ready to come back, to put up some karabur houses, as they call them. As the people in the forest are used to building with those. But the problem is one now of confidence in the administration.
And talking about the administration, His Eminence, despite the disturbing situation that you're painting in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, the implementation of stringent security measures announced by the President of the Republic in his end of year address to the nation on the 31st of December, which some have qualified now as a declaration of war on the Anglophone,
I think that was exaggerated.
Continues on the ground.
I'm sorry to say the President exaggerated the presence of the army in the English-speaking part of the country. It's no solution.
And that continues, however, despite...
Well, if it continues, we will never get a solution to the problem. With a human being, you reason. You do not use violence as if you are, treating a beast. You reason. That's why the world, I can say the world, is calling for dialogue. It's not violent.
And His Eminence, when you see the situation, like you observed while you were in the northwest and during your transit through the southwest region, while coming back to Douala,
not once, twice, plus many times.
When you look at the situation worsening on the ground, and the President of the Republic tells Cameroonians that the situation is stabilizing.
No, it is not. He is not well informed. No, the President is not well informed. I think some people hide the truth from him. It's a pity, I have to say that. I don't think the President knows the reality of what is happening in the southwest and in the northwest of the country. It's dramatic.
But there are reports...
Schools are not going on.
There are reports on television, on radio, newspapers, every day on the situation.
I wonder how many go on the official papers like the CRTV and go to the spot. If you don't know, people in Kumbu did not know what was happening in Beam. When I told them I was in Beam, they said, what did you go to do in Beam? I said, I went to witness myself for myself what the army has done in Beam. They don't know. The truth is not publicized.
And there are also reports of looting going on.
Looting by the army, I'm sorry to say it. The looting is by the army. And I think also the killing of of some military men gives me the impression that they are not well trained militarily. I cannot understand how a well-trained young military man, how a young man in the village who is not trained can seize a gun from his hand and use it against him. You know.
And many of those who were killed are the young ones who just came out of school some few months ago.
Yeah, they are not well trained. They haven't the experience of, the tactics required. Either in the approach of the population. Now the population is the enemy of the army. I can say that.
And the deployment of young soldiers on the ground who just came out of school.
Why the young are not the experienced? Why the young? And we are told that, this is by hearsay, told that, some high-ranking military people use the occasion to enrich themselves because the government is spending. The government is spending for these operations.
Enriching themselves? How? His Eminence?
Well, those who are on the front eat little, and what they receive, most of it remains in their pockets. So I'm told.
Right. His Eminence...
Take, for example, let's take the case of Bakassi. Well, I read somewhere that at one time we were talking about 20 Cameroonians who were killed by invading Nigerian army. But somebody with a military experience is bringing out a book. If he has not brought it out, I read the rough copy of it, says that the killing of the 20 Cameroonians in Bakassi was by the Cameroonian army and not by the Nigerian army. Because the president, the two presidents, President Obasanjo of Nigeria and Paul Biya and the Secretary General of the United Nations, were about settling the problem politically. But the army wanted still to prove that the problem is it cannot be settled now. It is still going on. So they organized a killing of Cameroonians by Cameroonians, because I learned they were giving them about 400 million every month or every year, I don't know. Because the state spends on this military operation, and the account of how the money is spent is not given. It's not given. I hear the top people do not render account of how the money they were given for this or that operation was spent.
So are you blaming the worsening situation on poor management by the government?
Of course, that is
the
obvious.
President of the Republic, for example, has not been to the northwest or southwest since he started.
That's obvious. The people who should take this are not going to the front to see what is happening. The reality of the situation.
Are you advising President Paul Biya to go to the northwest and the southwest?
Of course. If I were him, I would go to the front to see for myself, to talk to the people. And the people themselves have been calling for it. Take, for example, the refugees in Nigeria. I was in Nigeria during that period, up to the interior of Igbo land, Nowhere. I didn't go to where our refugees are found, but I was told that on the 31st of December, when the president gave his national, political speech, some refugees trekked for 1 hour to a point where they could listen to the president's speech. And they were sorry that even in that he did make mention of them. And those were his supporters, CRTV, CPDM. Members of the CPDM party, women, they trekked for 1 hour to go to a point in Nigeria where they could get clearly the speech of their president. And they were so deceived, they were so disappointed that the president did not make mention of them who are refugees in Nigeria.
Many are asking the question today, where is the church in all what is happening in Cameroon today?
We are living the events painfully with the population. I can affirm without any fear of contradiction that the bishops in the two regions know very well what is happening on the ground. At the beginning of these problems, they studied the situation and made a report and asked for audience with the head of state. Till today they have not got it. They have also written a second report on the events. And especially the Bishop of Mafe, where it is really very, very difficult now for people to move around, has made a good report on what is happening. Of course, when they make those reports, they propose solutions. For the first report, they were accused by the official press that they were taking sides. Which bishop would like to take sides? If there is no peace in the country, our action as missionaries, as pastors, cannot move. We are not politicians. We would love that there be peace. Christ is the Prince of Peace, and that is him whom we propose to the world. If there is no peace, we cannot do our missionary work. So if you would see in all the dioceses in Cameroon, there's prayer, special prayer for peace at every Mass.
His Eminence, when we look at the role of the church in countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, in South Africa, we're tempted to say that the National Episcopal Conference of Cameroon is a little bit sluggish.
Well, we've even been accused that we have been attacking the government too often. You know, situations are different. Situations are different. You cannot compare I don't know the exact situation in the Congo Democratic.
The church has a very strong influence in the socio-political life of the nation there.
It depends what you mean by strong influence. It doesn't appoint ministers anyway. The thing is that when the conference notices that there's something going wrong, which could touch the lives of the people, the government makes propositions. Doesn't impose, because we have no political power to impose. We can only propose, you know. And that some conferences do more than others. I agree with you there. I admire the implication of the Catholic Episcopal Conference in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where usually very slow, like Cameroon, were the product of our country, you know, in acting. I agree with you there. There are situations where I would think we should take a firm stand and say this is wrong.
And that is what many Cameroonians are requesting from the President of the National Episcopal Conference today, to come out with very rigid and hard stance on issues like what is happening in the country today, the socio-political crisis.
Yeah. Yes, I think the conference should have done more. I agree with you there than it is doing. It's my opinion. Because when I compare that with the time when we were there, during the economic crisis, we brought out a stinker to prove that the causes of the economic crisis were mostly internal, not external. We tend to blame those from outside, but we think that we analyze it with some intellectuals, lay people, worked with them, produced a document, the economic crisis in 1990. On the economic crisis, it was they attacked us on the radio. Even before it came to, I don't know how it snaked out. It leaked out, and the conference was. I was the president of the conference at the time. Some even accused me that I was the one who pushed the bishops to bring out that document. I wish I could push the bishops to bring out a document. I would have pushed them to bring out many documents.
His Eminence Cardinal Tumi, from all indications, you are joining those who say that government has been poorly managing the socio-political unrest in the two Anglophone regions of the country. How should government go about solving this problem?
I think, well, many have proposed the way of going about the solution of the problem we have at hand, that we have in our hands now. Nothing can be done without our meeting to talk about the problems. Many have called for what is called inclusive dialogue. Some are wondering with whom should the government dialogue. But if the government was to dialogue...
And some say the government should dialogue with the secessionists.
With?
With the secessionists.
With everybody. That's what I understand by inclusive dialogue, in my own understanding. Nobody should be excluded. This present situation is this. We cannot dialogue without these fellows who are outside there and are controlling our fellow citizens in the country, in the two regions of the country. It's impossible.
Including those who are now in detention, Sisiku, Ayuk, and the others.
Everybody. Their representatives. Allow them to choose their representatives. And let's dialogue with them.
Are you calling on government to release them and bring them to the dialogue table?
Of course. You know the case of Ghana. Nkrumah was voted when he was a prisoner to become the Prime Minister of Ghana. You know why not? There is nobody who can claim to love Cameroon more than any other Cameroonian. We all love this country. It is our country. Nobody is older than this country. We were born and we were told this is Cameroon. We love Cameroon. At reunification, we fought for, I was so involved in my own small way in the fight for reunification. So that as a seminarian, I was not yet a priest. I asked my bishop, my Lord, why after reunification you continue to send us to Nigeria when there is a major seminary in Yaoundé? He told me, Christian, that was a political question. So I closed my mouth. And when I was ordained, 3 years after he came to tell my bishop, the same person told me that I should be ready to go to Europe for further education. I said, where? He told me Rome. And I told my bishop, my Lord, I'm ready to go to Rome. But our country has become bilingual. I would like to study in a French-speaking country. That's why he sent me to France, so that I would feel at home everywhere in Cameroon. I've been a priest for 50 years. I've only worked for 9 years in the English-speaking part of the country. For the rest of my life as a priest, I've been a priest here, a bishop, Yagwa Garwa Douala. So wanted it. But then there was cheating going on. We have to come back. If we had continued with what we decided in 1961, there would have been no problem. A federal republic. I'm not fixing on 2 states. You can multiply states, but a federal republic. That's what was decided.
And today federalism has become a taboo.
So slowly and silently, we have come back to where we were in reunification, La République. Which means the fundamental rights of the English-speaking Cameroonians are not being respected. As far as the English-speaking part of the country is concerned. I keep repeating this experience. I lived in Rome as a bishop. The French embassy to the Holy See invites us for a supper. While we are there, the French officer in the embassy approaches me and asks me, Monsieur le Cardinal, vous êtes de quel pays? When I told him I was from Cameroon, he said, nous sommes contents que vous êtes en train d'assimiler les anglophones. And France is involved.
And is that assimilation that
has come true?
The root cause of what is happening today?
And that has come true. Because we have come back to the Republic. And that is why some of the English-speaking Cameroon are fighting for Southern Cameroon, because that's what it was. And we changed the name. But we have come back.
So you are saying that government should go back to square one and begin to rectify the problem from the...
If they want real peace. Because I'm convinced that if we had continued with that, we would not have been where we are. That's my opinion, to which I have a right. Others have a right to their own opinions.
His Eminence, thank you so much for accepting to be a guest in this edition of the program.
God bless you.
That was His Eminence Cardinal Tumi, Archbishop Emeritus of the Archdiocese of the Roman Catholic Church in the economic capital of the Republic of Cameroon, that is the Douala Metropolitan Archdiocese.